Physics is used in all aspects of fitness. A job like personal training requires knowledge of basic physics concepts. The physics concepts that are most seen in a job like personal training is torque and forces. One concept, such as torque, is used in fitness. In fitness, torque describes a concept in biomechanics. It allows the human body to push, pull, and lift objects when we are in our homes, on the street, or at the gym. Understanding torque as a personal trainer is essential, as it is the foundation of human movement. Torque plays an important role in many different types of exercises. A sound understanding of the concept will allow you to approach workouts with the knowledge of how to get more out of your performance while simultaneously ensuring that your muscles, joints, and ligaments are kept protected under the strain of rigorous activity. First, understanding torque can make lifting weights more efficient and easier. When it comes to lifting during exercise, one needs to understand how the mechanics of the human body can be leveraged to generate torque to allow the athlete to lift weights by maneuvering their body around the weight rather than the weight around their body. In doing so, an athlete can consider their joints the axis during the movement, as though they were the hinges of a door. This allows the athlete to perform movements that put minimal stress on their joints while still generating enough power for the lift. Torque is also important to prevent injury. Less torque leads to less chance of an injury.
So how can you minimize torque during exercise to prevent injury? To minimize torque during exercise, we could follow simple strategies. First, we could emphasize correct setup. Starting in the correct position decreases the likelihood of using dangerous mechanics during an exercise. Correct start mechanics for any exercise include neutral spine and joint alignment, plus square shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles. Second, we should decrease range of motion. Another way to control mechanics, speed, and momentum is to decrease the range of motion of an exercise. Get new clients acclimated to exercise or introduce new movements by using a small range of motion. An exercise with smaller range of motion decreases the chance for mechanics errors and dangerous torque on the joints. Once the client has the correct exercise mechanics, gradually increase range of motion.
Third, a personal trainer should limit the use of repetitive movements. Repetition produces torque on the same joint in the same direction repeatedly. To reduce torque on a specific joint, use a variety of exercises to work the same muscle.
Certainly not least, we can shorten the movement arm. Torque is the product of mass multiplied by the movement arm length. To reduce the torque on joints, shorten the moment arm. This can be understood by studying the leg in this exercise. In this example, the axis of rotation is the knee and the contact force is the pad above the ankle. The moment arm is the distance between the knee and the pad above the ankle during the various positions of the exercise. To decrease the pressure on the knee, shorten the leg piece so the pad is closer to the knee.
Another concept of physics used in fitness is forces, specifically Newton's laws of motion. Newton has 3 laws of motion: the law of inertia, the law of acceleration, and the law of action and reaction. The first law of motion, the law of inertia, states that every object will remain at a state of uniform motion and stay in a state of motion until an external force is applied to it. We can observe the law of inertia in the very basic exercises we perform in the gym environment. For example, when an athlete is squatting, there are multiple changes in external forces. During the descent, also known as the eccentric phase of the movement, there is a change in an external force that acts upon the barbell and the person in order to alter the velocity of the movement at the bottom. This can be observed during the isometric phase, when your athlete stops and absorbs the weight, then reverses the direction of the movement in the concentric phase, or ascent. In order to change the direction of movement at a certain speed, we must be able to efficiently absorb the load through the deceleration phase, change directions, and then accelerate. When training or programming an athlete to efficiently and effectively absorb the load during the deceleration phase without causing injury, personal trainers use several methods. One method commonly used is triphasic training. The goal of triphasic training is to to teach athletes how to absorb force both eccentrically and isometrically before applying it concentrically. In other words, the point of training is to have athletes maximize power in the shortest amount of time. As shown in the graph, an elite athlete has more power and is able to absorb it in less time than the advanced athlete. This makes for a more efficient exercise that is less likely to cause injury.
Newton's second law of motion explains what happens if a net external force acts on an object. Newton's second law says that if a net external force is exerted on an object, the object will accelerate in the direction of the net external force, and its acceleration will be directly proportional to the net external force and inversely proportional to its mass. This can be stated mathematically as sigma F equals ma, where sigma F equals net external force, m equals mass of the object, and a equals instantaneous acceleration of the object. Applied to fitness, this rule tells us that when our muscles move or accelerate against a mass, they produce force. In general, the heavier the mass being moved, the more muscle force required to accelerate it from a state of rest. Newton's third law says that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This means that whenever an object moves, pushes, or presses another object, the second object reacts by returning the same amount of force. Objects react by creating resistance or pushing back.
We lift in accordance to Newton's third law. Newton's third law describes the forces between two bodies. In deadlifting, one body is combined human body and loaded bar, while the other body is the earth itself. We exert a force upon the earth with our feet, and the ground exerts an equal force back to us, essentially a simultaneous event. This is a ground force reaction.
And third law also explains how many sport injuries are caused. The more force you use to hit a tennis ball, the more reaction force your arm receives from the racket. Every time your feet hit the ground when you are running, the ground hits your feet with an equal and opposite force.
Physics is used in fitness in many different ways. Torque is used to efficiently lift weights and minimize injury. Newton's laws of motion are also used to efficiently lift weights and provide reasoning for injuries. Now that we learned how physics can be utilized in a job like personal training, how can someone become a personal trainer? First, we must learn what a personal trainer is. A personal trainer works one-on-one with the client to plan or implement an exercise or fitness regime. We talked to Sean Carl, a personal trainer and a wrestling coach who has a BS in exercise science. He explained that having a BS in exercise science is not mandatory, but greatly preferred when becoming a personal trainer. Learning about exercise science is very important because it allows someone to learn about the movement and the motion of joints and muscles. In addition, exercise science is also used for many different career paths and ends up opening more doors for someone who decides they want to study it. In order to become a certified personal trainer, a person needs to be CPR and AED certified. CPR certification training involves teaching you how to identify a person suffering from cardiac arrest or from breathing constriction. Through certification courses, you'll learn the proper chest compression techniques and how to help the victim breathe through artificial ventilation. An AED certification tests your knowledge of administering electric shock to the heart using AED equipment. AED certification is only taught in conjunction with CPR.
A personal trainer also needs a certain set of people skills. For example, they have to be able to easily communicate with their client and be a likable person to their client. The client must feel comfortable with the personal trainer. Other skills a personal trainer must have is knowledge of gym equipment and knowledge about joints and muscles.
There is not a lot of tech in the job as a personal trainer. The most important technology in the job is the gym equipment. However, nowadays, mobile phones have become increasingly important. Coach Carl, the personal trainer we interviewed, explains that most of his scheduling is done on his phone, and he even has done some sessions from the FaceTime feature on his phone. Personal trainers are an important part of society. A personal trainer helps people become their healthiest self by exercising. A personal trainer will ensure people are performing exercises correctly and efficiently in order to maximize results. Good form when performing exercises is also essential in reducing the risk of injury. A personal trainer can give you the tools and support you need to reach a health and fitness goal. They can provide support, accountability, education, and a personalized plan of attack, so you may find working with one well worth investment.